Hi there. So recently I got a comment in one of my Python videos saying, I really wish you used any language other than Python. It's just low class, whatever that means. So I told them, well, you choose the next language. And apparently C# or JavaScript or TypeScript would be more high class than Python. Now, I have no interest in C# really, and I don't know who in their right mind would put JavaScript over Python. So that leaves us with TypeScript. Oh, TypeScript, the greatest afterthought in programming. So in today's video, we are going to do some TypeScript programming. Now, there's one more problem, which is that I have never written TypeScript. But hey, this is 2024, we have ChatGPT and we have GitHub Copilot, so how hard can it be? And what I would like to do in TypeScript today is this. I have previously created this GPT-AutoPilot project, which uses the ChatGPT API to create full code bases based on a prompt. So you tell it to create a web application, for example, and it will create all the HTML files and the JavaScript files and the CSS files and so on. And then you can iterate over the code base with more prompts. But a lot of people have been asking me if this can be used with an open source LLM. And it can't really, because I'm using the function calling of OpenAI. And that is generally not available in the open source models. And also, I would like to fine-tune this at some point to make it work better. But again, function calling is, at least last time I checked, not available for the fine-tuning in OpenAI. So I want to see if I can make this project work without function calling. And I can do that in any language because this is more about the prompt engineering than the programming. So we might as well use TypeScript and maybe learn something. So let's do it. Let's go to ChatGPT and ask it how we can get started with TypeScript. Alright, first we have to understand the basics. Okay, so TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript, meaning any valid JavaScript code is also valid TypeScript code. Okay, TypeScript adds static typing to JavaScript, which can help catch errors early during development. So let's see if we learn anything in this video, because we can basically just use JavaScript. But let's see if we can use types in our advantage somehow. Okay, and we have to install Node and NPM, which I have already installed. And we have to install TypeScript, which I just an hour ago installed when I tried to film this video, but I ran into some issues with it, so now I'm starting over. And we have to initialize a project. And I have done that already. I have a TS Autopilot here in VS Code. So what do we have to do? We have to do npm init to create the package.json and so on. So let's do all this stuff with just the defaults. And then what is next? We have to initialize TSC so that we can compile TypeScript. Okay, great. And then we have to write some TypeScript code. Alright, and this is basically JavaScript, but we just have the type here in the same way as Python. So let's actually try to do this thing. So we are going to create index.ts and we are going to say function greet, and we will have a name, which is a string, and then we will return hello name. So GitHub Copilot came to the rescue here, so we don't have to remember anything. And let's greet John. Was this actually the example? Greet world, hello world. Okay, fine. We are going to greet Mr. John. And then we have to, I guess, compile this. And like I said, I did this an hour ago, but it did not work. This time it works for some reason. I'm guessing that we have already... Okay, we don't have the type module in package.json, but in here we have a bunch of options. Alright, so that's the reason why last time it took me an hour, because I did not run tsc init. So I did not have the ts config here. Anyway, now that we ran tsc, we will have an index.js file, which is basically the JavaScript version of the TypeScript code. And then we can just do node index.js, and it will say, hello, John. Amazing. Now we are officially TypeScript developers. So let's bring into this the ChatGPT API. ChatGPT TypeScript. And I should probably search for OpenAI TypeScript. And here is the official Node.js library, which I have used with JavaScript before. So let's install OpenAI. And then we have to use it like this. Now, this is just JavaScript, but I guess it works. So let's actually put all of this in here. And we can omit this thing, as it says here in the comment, because this is the default. And I already have exported my API key into the environment, so I don't have to put it in here. And we create a chat completion. I will format this a little bit differently. And I'm going to use 4 spaces for indentation. Does that make me a bad person? I don't think so. Okay, so we are sending a message to ChatGPT saying, say this is a test. And then we can, of course, get the chat completion, but actually let's get the choices 0, message, content. And I believe this is one of the reasons why you want to use TypeScript, because you can get this auto completion now, because all these things are typed in to the OpenAI library. So let's see if we can run this. And I believe it was just done by running tsc. Well, that's the compiling. So if we do tsc, then it will compile it. And then if we run node index.js, then we will run it. And it will say, this is a test. Amazing. And I think we can add to package.json like another script. So we have this test script. So I think we can run npm. Is it just test or run test? Maybe just test. Okay, so we get this error that we have here. So we can add like a run command here, which will be tsc and node index.js. So then we can just run npm run, and it will maybe run it. Okay, I think it is npm run, and then we give the script. So what should we call this then? Can we just say npm run, and then we will run it? Okay. I'm not sure what the convention here is. Anyway, it works. So what kind of message should we send to ChatGPT in order to make it like create files? So that's basically how GPT-AutoPilot works, is that we give it a bunch of functions, which are somewhere in here, maybe in modules, and we have GPT functions. So we have here somewhere, maybe all the way down here, I have defined all these functions. So for example, we have a write file function that writes content into a file. And we have an append file function that appends content to a file. And we also have list files, and we have read file, and then we have move file, and all these functions like create directory. So we want to give these to ChatGPT as an option. And I guess we should add like a system message here. So role, system, and content is going to be something. Let's say you are an AI assistant that can read files and write to files and create directories in order to create complete code bases. Use the following format in your responses. And let's make up some sort of format. Now, one other thing we could use here is the JSON mode, but again, it might not be available in open source models, so we are not gonna do that. And I forgot that in JavaScript or TypeScript, we cannot have multi-line strings, except if we do it like this. So what is the format? Now, Copilot is suggesting this format, so read file and file name, okay. I guess we have to do something like that. Now, if we use like a JSON format here, and we say something like function or action, actually, action is read file, for example, then it's going to work fine for actions like this. But what if we have write file, and then we're going to have like a content here? What if we try to write JSON into the file? It will screw up ChatGPT. It usually doesn't know how to properly format the response. Or if it's some code that has like quotes in it, then it has to know how to add these like slashes, and often it does it improperly. Now, how I fix that in GPT-AutoPilot is that we just call write file. And when we get that call, then we send another call to just give me the content of the file. So then it can just respond in a regular message with the code. So how about we just list the different actions? Here are the actions you can take. Let's just list them. Write file, read file, create directory. And let's start with that. And let's just say, respond with one of these commands. Respond only with the name of the command needed to be run next. For example, if you want to write a file, you should respond with write file. Okay, that makes sense. And what if we then say something like, create a Flask app that shows a different random joke every time you click a button. Let's see what is going to be the response from this. It should be either write file or it should be create directory. It might create like the templates directory or something. Now, of course, we can just run now one thing, but let's see what it does. Okay, it did not do what I wanted. It actually wrote the code. So here are like actual instructions. We need to create a directory for the Flask app. We have to write a file into app.py, and we have to initialize Flask and then create a list of jokes and then create the main route and then add the joke route and then create this index.html. But that's not what we want. But actually, I forgot this use the following format in your responses. I didn't want to add this because I say here, respond only with the name of the command needed to be run next. So let's try it again with that. Okay, now we got write file. And I guess we could add into write file the file name and read file the file name. And here as well, we could have the dir name. So if we run this again, it wants to create a directory, Flask app. So the next thing we should do is we should be able to run the next function. So we need to put these messages into some sort of array. Let's move them into messages. And let's say that let messages, I guess we can use const messages. And I guess we should now define what it is. Now it's a bit annoying that it is not necessary. Wouldn't that be better that if you had to type the things out? And this is going to be an array of anything. Let's do that at first. Of course, it would be nice to type everything out. And we actually have a type, don't we? Because we will have a message, which is a chat completion message. So we can use this thing as the type. So these are going to be chat completion messages. But then we get an error. Type system is not assignable to type assistant. What does that mean? Can I look at the definition of this? Chat completion message. Role assistant. Okay. So this is not the right type. What is actually the type of this? Let's see what the create takes. Messages is going to be chat completion message param. Okay, so it's an array of these. So let's use this instead, like that. So now we don't have any errors, and now we can detect if we make a mistake. It will show we can't have Rodley, we have to have a role. Okay, that makes sense. And if we want to call this multiple times, then we can get the latest message. So we can say const message equals this. and we can say messages push, and we can push in the message. I hope the type matches. I guess it will match. But this is a chat completion message. Can I push it in there? I guess it should complain if I can't do that because it knows what these are. So I'm guessing that the chat completion message is compatible with chat completion message param. Hopefully. And let's actually print this. So let's print message content. And if we want to get the next command, then we should run this again. But we can't use const here now because we are replacing the old one. So let's actually use let. But a better way might be to move this into a different function. But let's do that at first. And what does it complain? Sorry, we can of course call let twice. So we might want to do something like let chat completion and let message. And we send the first messages and we get the response back and we push that to the message list. And then we send another one with the added message and then we get the next step. Now we might want to have like a task finished action, and let's say call this when the whole code base has been created. So then we can actually make like an infinite loop that waits for this task finished call. But let's try first with these two different calls and let's run it. So we should get two different calls from ChatGPT. Okay, create dir app and then write file app/init.py. Makes sense. Now, of course, we are not yet writing any content anywhere, but let's see all of the steps it's gonna take. So what is the best way of doing this? Let's make just a while true loop here. And actually, Copilot is suggesting something. So we send the messages, we get the message, we print the message, we push the message. If the message content is task finished, then we break. That makes perfect sense. We are going to do exactly that. And I guess we can now use here const because it is inside of this while loop. And let's see if that works. Let's run it and it should now finish the whole thing. We make an app directory, we create a main.py, which doesn't really make sense because we did not change into the directory. And we actually wrote some code, which kind of makes sense now how it did it. So it says write file and then templates/choke.html and then it wrote the code. So that actually makes perfect sense. Even though we didn't tell it to do this, but it did it. So this is very easy to parse now. So let's actually do it. Now it is assuming that create directory will change into that directory, I guess, because it wrote the main.py. So we could probably add to write file, like a comment, include full file contents after a new line. Although it did it already, but just to make sure it does it every time. And let's add here, all file and directory paths are relative from the root. Let's just do that. And I guess we can just parse the file content right now. So how do we do that? We get the message and we get the content. So let's actually take this. Const message content is that. And let's log that. And let's just say if the message content includes write file, then we are going to read the content of the file, which we are going to do in the following way. We are going to get the file name by splitting with the space and then taking the last part, and the file contents we will split with the new line and then we will slice one, which I guess remove the first line, and then we just join the lines with a new line. And then we are going to say writing to file name with contents. Okay, now I don't have to put the contents here. Let's just do this. ... or like that. And let's actually write the contents. So let's create like a folder here called code, or I guess we can do it in our code over here. Let's make some sort of like function initialize. And here we are going to say if the data directory doesn't exist. So how do we do that in TypeScript? Check if data or code directory exists. And we are going to do it like what? Come on, Copilot, useless. Useless. Let's say if fs file exists sync code. Okay, then we're going to create it. And we have to import it from fs. Makes sense. And we can just call in main initialize. So then we're going to have the code directory. And when we call write file and we get the file contents, then we're actually going to write it, which is going to be done by fs.write file sync, I guess. Where is Copilot when I need him? Write file sync. And we are going to write into code/filename the file contents. Now actually we should say if the index of write file is equal to 0, because it has to start with write file. Because what if we want to create a directory called write file? Then that's not going to work. So that's going to write the file. Amazing. And I guess we can add an else if. If the message content has read file. Let's not do read file yet because we have to actually pass in the content to ChatGPT. Let's just say if the message content equals create dir, then we are going to actually we still have to take it this way. If it is create dir, then we are going to get the directory name and we're going to create the file. Make dir sync. Great. What else do we have? We have, it really wants me to create the read file function. Let's just say to do. And what else do we have? Task finished. That is handled here already. So I guess we can just do it here like this. Break. Let's do that. And we can push the message already up here. And we have now write file, read file, create directory, and task finished. So let's run this thing and see if it actually creates the project. So we have a code directory. We have a Flask app directory. We have app.py. And we got an error. We did not create the templates directory. So we have to either allow it to create whatever file in whatever directory, so that if it doesn't exist, we will just create it. Or we have to return an error back to ChatGPT that the templates directory doesn't exist, and then it should create it. But we still need to have a create directory function because sometimes you need to create an empty directory for some cases. So I think I will just allow it to do anything. So how do we do that? Can we just pass here something? Write file options. Can I see what are the write file options? Let's go to the definition and let's go to the definition of the options. And we just have a mode and a flag. So let's add here create directory if it does not exist. This is how we code in 2024. We get the dir name, and if the directory doesn't exist, we create it recursively. Amazing. Then we can write to the file. And I guess we can add here as well that this is recursive. Recursive. True. So if it wants to create a nested directory directly, it can do that as well. Okay, let's try it. I'm going to delete my Flask app from here. And let's run this thing. Okay, and we ran all these things. So we created a directory and we wrote to app.py all this code, and we do have these ticks here which probably screwed it up. Yes, because it added this like Markdown formatting here. And then we create the directory jokes app templates. So this time we actually created the templates directory separately, and we made a static directory, and then we made the index.html in there, and okay, it works. So now we actually have an empty static directory. But for some reason, our app.py is empty, and so is our index.html. So something went wrong with writing the data. So file contents is message content split with the new line, slice 1 join. Why did that not work? Let's actually console log content, which is going to be the file contents. Very interesting. Content is empty. So damn Copilot writing bad code. So we split with the new line. That makes sense. We slice. What does slice do? Returns a copy of a section of an array. For both start and end, a negative index can be used to indicate an offset. Okay. Start is the beginning of the specified portion of the array. If start is undefined, then the slice begins at 0. But we start with 1, and if end is undefined, then the slice extends to the end. That makes sense. Why doesn't it work? Wait a minute. Does this not work in Node? Do I have to do something like this? Let's try this again. There's no content. Wait a minute. Oh, did it send it as a separate message? Okay, it didn't add the code into its first message. It just says, okay, write file, and then after that it just sends the code as a message. So by including this include full file contents after a new line, it broke how it worked. So what if I just do this? /n, there should be /n, file content. Does that make sense? Or just say new line, file content. Let's see if that will work. I guess I could just omit it since it did that in the first version. What should I what should I write? What? Okay, how do we do this? Include full file contents after a new line. I will just add a separate instruction here. When using write file, you can write multiple lines of code. That makes sense. Add the code after a new line, or starting from the next line. Now I could add an example, but the problem with examples, if I say write file hello.txt and then I add hello world, then in my experience, when you give a short example like this, then it thinks that it should create short things and it will shorten what it will write. So I want to avoid that. When using write file, you can write multiple lines of code. Add the code starting from the next line. Let's see what that does. Still didn't work. Okay. What if I say in the same message? Now we can still use this method. So basically we can save the state. If it says write file, then we save the state. Okay, the next message will be the code. So I guess we will have to do that because content is nothing. Let's do that. Let's go down here and let's check if the contents is empty. So if file contents, let's strip it or trim it if it is empty. Then we set the state let's just call it state. State equals waiting for file contents. That makes sense. And of course we have to have the state. So let's do let state, and now we can do some TypeScript magic. So we can have the values that it can be. Waiting for contents, waiting for command. I'll just call this write file. Or what is the other state? Waiting for command. It's too long. Can I just set it to null? Can it be null? Is that a good thing? Why is this a different color? Does it want now a null class or something? Let's set it to something. Let's set it to command. Whatever. It will be either command or write file. Or how about no command? Let's do that. And then down here we set the state to write file and we just continue. And else we are going to do all this stuff. So we're going to actually write the thing. And we're going to want to do this in a different place as well. So let's make it a function. Let's call it, first of all, we have to set the state to no command after we write the file. Let's create a write file function, and we'll pass in the file name and the file contents, and we can move this in there. And let's create it here. Function write file, file name, file contents, and it will do this. And the state, I want it to be still here. Write the file and set the state. And everything here, here we have to have a type. So this is going to be a string, and file contents will be also a string. Let's verify, what does this want? It actually wants path or file descriptor. So let's actually do that. This is what we want. And file content is going to be string or Node.js array buffer view. Fine, let's use that. I mean, we're not going to use array buffer view, but I guess we still technically might use it. But now split doesn't work. Interesting. So I guess a string can be this, but this cannot be a string. Does that make any sense? So we are going to call it a string. Damn it. This is a string too. Fine. We want a string of the file name and a string of the file contents. And then, what are we going to do next? We have to check if the state is write file, then we're going to write the file. So else if if state equals write file, then we're going to write the file. And I guess we don't have to set the state here to no command, because we only set it if we don't have the file contents. So we can just do this. And down here we have to get the file name and the file contents. So we should include these in our state. Can we do something cool here? Can we like make our own type for the write file? Are types like classes, or is it a different thing? If I go here and I go write file options, export type equals. So I can just create a type. So can I define a type here? Type write file. And how does this work? Can I have the type and the file name and the file contents? And let's call this write file state. And can this be of type state, so that then we can say that this is a state, and then it can be no command state. Is this over engineering? So how can we make this a state? Let's see what Copilot will say. State is no command state or write file. Okay, so that makes sense. So a state is one of these things. So let's add no command state here, which is just this. So then the state is no command state. Why can't I set it to no command state? That's weird. Does it matter how I define this? No. No command state only refers to a type but is being used as a value. So can I have null? And then set this to null, I guess. So we don't have to have no command state. So state is either write file state or null. And then we can set the state to null. Amazing. And then the state is going to be just like this. Type write file, file name, file contents. Wait a minute. Shouldn't I set this to file name? And this is going to be file contents. So now it matches what is in here. Type, file name, file contents. So then we can get the stuff from the state. If the state equals write file state, damn it, what was it called? It's called write file state. No, it's a type. This is probably not how you use it. I mean, I can say if state and state.type equals write file. Okay, then that still kind of makes sense. And then I can say state.file name, and I actually have auto completion here. That's pretty cool. State.file contents. And then the state will be null. Great. And now, since this is a compiled language, if I run it, I can see the errors if I made an error. But I didn't make any errors, so now it's working. And did we actually do it? Let's take a look. We have multiple things here now because I didn't delete the files. So let's take a look at some of the files. All of them are still empty. Or is it in app? Templates. Damn it. Why did it not work? Let's remove these and let's take a look. So we got write file, and I can't tell from this logging whether we had the actual code here or no. But anyway, it did not work. Let's run it one more time just to confirm, because I had the other files in there. So now we have Flask app, and we have app.py with nothing, and index.html with nothing, and Flask app as an empty directory. Okay, it's not working perfectly. What is the issue here now? So we actually called the write file function because we logged this writing to file. So let's log this properly. Let's do like message content is going to be this. Let's add it in like a tag like this. And then let's log this. Console log setting state write file. And here, let's say writing file directly. And down here, writing file from state. And let's run it and see what will happen. Okay, we got just this write file, and then we wrote the file. And writing file from state. And this was the message content, which was the code. So how come it didn't work? App.py, Flask app, jokes app, init. Why didn't it work? Writing to file, file contents. Because I am an idiot. If the file content is empty, we're going to put the file content in here. We only need the file name. This is only file name. So then we are going to get the current content. Damn it. So let's do that again in here. And what is wrong with message content? Is possibly null. Okay, well, here we added, or Copilot added the question mark, but really I should be checking this. So let's add it here. Message content is that. If, do I have like an assert in TypeScript? Maybe I can just check if message content is null. Then we just do this. Kind of like throw an error. Message content is null. Let's do that. Does TypeScript now understand that message content cannot be null? That's great. So we can remove these question marks. And let's try again, but I will delete these. Maybe I should delete them automatically in the code. Let's run it. And now we are going to create app.py, which has the code. And we have templates, which has index.html, and it has the code. Amazing. And that might actually work if we run it. So we just have to import, or we have to install Flask. Although, yeah, we should import it. It didn't import Flask in the code. But let's see how we did this. Did we actually use the state now? Yes, writing file from state. Okay, let's try the newer model. I'm not sure if it's any better. 1106. And let's delete all these things. And actually, with GPT-AutoPilot as well, GPT-4 is really the one that you should use if you want to actually get some better results. But let's see now what this will do. Oh, it added quotes into the arguments, to the commands. So that screwed everything up. But we actually imported the stuff. And wait a minute. Did I have a mistake? I did have a mistake. It did import it, of course, but I should not, when I read the file contents in this state version, I should not slice it. So file content, it's just file content or the message content. So we just do that. Okay. And we have to trim this. Trim the quotation marks from the file name. And apparently I can't do that. Trim. Oh, it's only for white space. So how do I do that then? Let's wrap this in a function. Parse file name. I guess we could just get it from the message content. Message content. And let's do the same thing here. Parse file name. Message content. And let's add it here as well. File name is parse file name message content. And let's create that function. Parse file name. And the file name is a string. And we are going to say let file name equal that. So this is the message content. So we take that. And then we have to trim. Why is trimming so hard? So in most languages you just say strip or trim and then you pass in what you want to strip. But apparently in JavaScript we have to do something else. So do I really have to check if the first character is this, we slice it. And maybe that is actually a good idea to slice the slash as well. So let's do that and return it. And if it is this one, we slice it. And if the last one, so the file name dot length -1 equals that, then we slice -1. Very terrible code. I'm sure there's a better way, but I do not know the better way. Let's ask Copilot. Trim quotes. It literally does this. What? Oh, I have to pass in 0. Okay. Fine, let's do it like this. So that should now be fixed, but this has to be const file name. What else do we need to do? That should fix the import and the file name. And yeah, this is kind of interesting though, why we have just the starting quote here and just the ending quote here. What did it actually do? Did it try to create multiple different folders? It did it like that. Okay, well, yeah, that makes sense. So it created this folder and then it created that folder. Makes sense. But it should work now. So let's run it. And we still have the ending quote for some reason. Why didn't it work? Let's take a look. So we got write file this. And then we set the state to write file. Then we got this content, which now has these markdown ticks here. And yeah, okay, I guess it worked. But I forgot to delete these things. But this is the new one now. And we have templates with index.html and we have app.py. But now we have to get rid of these. We probably have to ultimately trim them manually. But we might try to prompt ChatGPT to just not use Markdown. Don't use Markdown formatting in files unless they are Markdown files. And I'm going to add a check. Perhaps in the initialize, maybe it makes sense to put it here. If we have something in the code, so how do we check that? If there is something in the code directory, then warn the user. So we get the files, and if the length of the files is more than 0, then we do that. yeah, warn the user and then directly delete everything. Great. I will say, do you want to delete them? Do you want to delete them? And then we have to get the input with JavaScript, which I guess is not as complicated as I have done it previously. So previously I used like the read line module, but there is something else we can do to make it simpler. But for some reason Copilot is not doing it. Ask for user input. How do we do it? Yes, we can just open stdin from the process. And then, what? It's still this complicated. Add listener data. But now this is going to be asynchronous, so we can't just do this because it just adds the event listener. And then it deletes the files. So what we have to do is we have to say if input, and we will say, let's say here, do you want to delete them? And let's remove it from here. If this is yes, then we are going to delete them. But then we have to create that function. Let's create an async function input. And here we're going to do that. But we are going to return new promise. And what we're going to do here is actually we are going to resolve. And we're going to do this. And here we are going to resolve with true. And actually we just resolve with the input. Resolve input. But that's just one thing. Oh my goodness. So I have to say let data equal an empty string. And here I have to say data plus equals input. And if data equals a new line, then we will resolve this thing. And actually we will resolve it before that. I don't want the new line in the actual response. And we're only going to end here when we get the new line. So then we can actually do this. We can say await input. And then this has to be async. And then we have to await initialize. Great. And this needs to take the input or the, let's call it prompt. And let's console log prompt. And it is a string. We're going to console log the input. Please, Copilot, console log prompt. And yeah, that should work. Let's add a space here. And we can remove that comment. And hopefully this code is correct. I don't want to remove something I don't want. Makes sense. So we don't have anything in there. So let's create something. Test.text. And let's run this thing. And it says, warning, there are files in the code directory. Do you want to delete them? And actually it made a new line, whatever. So I'll say yes. And it will hopefully delete them. But it did not. And I'm not quite sure what is the reason for this. Perhaps the data can be more than one character. So we can say index of new line is not -1. Then we're going to end it and then we're going to resolve it. And I want to trim the new line from this. Sorry, this needs to be the data. Let's try again. Is that going to work? Yes. Damn it. Let's just... Damn it. We are trimming the freaking thing. It's never going to be a new line if we trim it over there. Okay, one more time. Yes. And still it doesn't work. Let's print input is input. Do we actually get something? So print console log. And if I press A, nothing happens. So does it only happen after I send enter? Ah, okay. I thought that in the data, every time I press, there's going to be something. But of course, it doesn't work like that. I am an idiot once again. So we don't have to do this. We just resolve with the input like this. But still, overly complicated. Why is it so complicated? Let me know in the comments if you know a simpler way of doing this. I mean, is there stdin dot? Is there like a wait for something? Once, pipe, read. What does this do? Read a number of bytes. But I think it's not gonna work because it has to be the specific. If we just ask for y, whatever, I'll do it like this. Let's see now. Yes, I want to delete them. It worked, but it didn't work. So we resolved with the input, but now I do have to trim the freaking thing. Then it's gonna work. So let it create this stuff now. And now we have the freaking less than and greater than signs here. So we have to strip those as well. This is very annoying. And I'm not sure what, oh, this assert came from somewhere. Let's strip also this one, and let's strip from the end this one. Now I really have to refactor this. This is terrible code. And what is happening here? Why are we stuck? Task finished, but we are stuck. Did I lose internet connection or something? Let's just close this. And let's try once again. Now when I say yes, it better work. Yes. Okay, we deleted everything. And then we create the app directory and init.py, routes.py, templates, and another init. Wait a minute. What? Why are we doing this? What? How is there two app directories? How is that even possible? And why did we get stuck on task finished? Task finished break. That's interesting. Why don't we close the application? Weird things going on with TypeScript. Anyway, we created app. That's impossible. That's literally impossible. Is there a space in the end or something? ls code. What? What is this? App $new line. What on earth? What did it do? Creating directory app new line ... Okay, so let us fix that. When we parse the file name, we are going to also trim it so that there will be no new lines. Then we're going to strip all these things. And I still don't know why task finished hangs. So let's console log task finished. And this is the loop, right? So I am going to console log done. Let's run it again. There are files. Do you want to delete them? Yes, I do. And it will delete them. Amazing. And then we created Flask app. And we're going to create app.py. And it will look like this. And we still have this beginning here. And in index.html, we have that. I know what's going on, I think. I forgot to call stdin.close. So I have to call it here. stdin close. Ha! What was it called? Do I have to call this? Wait a minute. It was close. Or stop or something. What was it called? End. Alright. End. Okay. So now we still have a couple of issues here. First of all, we get these Markdown ticks. And the naive approach would be to just check, okay, if it starts with 3 ticks, then omit that line. But what if we actually want to write, what if we want to make a Markdown file? I mean, highly unlikely that it starts with this, but it can. And it can definitely end with this. But I mean, we can probably fix this with the fine-tuning, at least. So let's for now just strip those things from that. Let's create a function for it. So here we have the file contents. So let's wrap it in like strip markdown. And what we can do here in function strip markdown, which takes the file contents, which is a string, and what is Copilot doing here? That's not really a good idea to just replace everything. If file contents index of tick 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 is 0, then we are going to slice 3. Not slice 3, just we're gonna split again with the new line, and we're gonna slice 1. And I guess slice the end as well. Is it always gonna be there, the end ticks? I hope so. So slice again, slice 1 to -1. That's what we want to do. And I guess we cannot assign, we have to join with a new line. And then we just return file contents. So that should work, unless we want to actually write Markdown that has that. But that is highly unlikely. I mean, maybe we want to write a README file for a project, but it will not start with this. That's fine. All right. Now, it should finally work, because this will be stripped because it starts with that, and then the ending is going to be stripped, and this is the same thing. And let's run it again. So run, and yes, I want to delete them. It will be deleted, and we get an app directory, and there we will have an init.py, which is interesting. Shouldn't this be just an empty thing? Let's see what. Oh, from app. So here we import from app the routes. Okay. But we don't actually do anything. Shouldn't init.py be just empty? Not sure. But now it's finished apparently. But oh my goodness. So it wrote like a very short, concise version of this. So we have just an index route, which is also a slash route. And we have some jokes, and we pick one joke, and we put the joke here. And when we click the button, get another joke, we're just going to go back to index, and then we're going to show another joke. I guess it will work. So let's try it one more time. I will add a little bit more information to my prompt, which I guess I could just get from the command line now. But let's add here. Create a Flask app that shows a different random joke every time you click a button. Let's add a README file on how to run it, and make sure to create it professionally. And let's run this thing. And we have to say, yes, delete the old stuff. And let's see what it does. We should have a README file that will tell us how to run it. Okay, it has been finished, but we're still hanging here for some reason. I think my stdin close didn't work, or end. Maybe we have to call the stdin remove all listeners on the data, I guess. So what's in here? readme.md, random joke Flask app. This is a simple Flask app that displays a different random joke every time you click a button. How to run. Install Python if not already installed. Clone this repository. Install the required dependencies using pip install R requirements. Run the Flask app using Python app.py. And open your browser at localhost. That's it. Task finished. Oh, is that the reason? That's the reason. Wait a minute. Why is the task finished here? Okay. Maybe we were still in the loop. But let's see if we can actually run this thing. Not sure where my highlighting went. Wait a minute. This is valid Python, isn't it? Don't tell me there's a new line. Maybe there's a new line in every one of these. What is that hash symbol there? ls code. Damn it. So now there's a new line and a hash symbol. What? Why did that happen? Where does that come from? Random. Okay, so it took out the first hash from this and put it in the file name. Why would it do that? Let's see our parse file name. Message content split with the space and take the last one and then trim it. That should work. Write file name. Did I not pass the file name somewhere through the parse? I did not. I only updated it. Wait a minute. No, when I set the file name, I parse it already. And then I save it here. Why does that not work? Wait, but this is the message content. No, it didn't take here anything. This is just a README file. writing to file app static style.css. Static styles. What? Wait a minute. Yeah, so it did not strip the new line. Okay, I know what's going on. Because now the code is in the message content, so we are now here and we parse it by splitting at the space and taking number 1, which still should be this. It is not this. It is this, because a new line is not a space. Damn it. So we have to do a split with the new line and take the first one and then split. Okay, do we have the same issue somewhere else? Write file name split, that's fine. File contents split, new line, that's fine. And file contents that, okay. Maybe finally now it will work. Let's check for other errors here. Looks fine. That looks fine. This looks fine. Okay, I am going to run it one more time and hopefully it will work. But the task finished is kind of weird, why it added it in the end. But let's run this thing and delete the files. And we have app, we have init.py, which is now perfect, and we have route.py, which is great. Now we're actually using some API to get the jokes. And in static, we have a style.css, and in templates, we have an index.html, and we are done. But again, we are still stuck in this weird state. Anyway, I will close from this. And let's see if this app will actually work. We did not create the README file. Oh, it's in tests folder for some reason. And yeah, it adds this task finished in the end for some reason. But let's cd into code and let's run Python m app. I already have Flask installed. Python 3, I have to say, because I'm on Linux. And no module named app main. Okay, that's a bit weird. I haven't ever used it this way, so I will just run Python cd app and Python 3. I guess I need to run init.py, no module named app. Amazing. From app import routes. So maybe I just don't know how to run this thing, but Python m app. Do I have to run it here? Python m app. It does not work. So I'm going to add one more thing into my prompt, which is going to be only perform one action per message, because I don't want it to put the task finished in the end of the message. And I will add here, you are an AI assistant that can read files and write to files and create directories in order to create complete professional code bases to make it write the whole thing. So let's do it one more time. Run it and delete the files. And now we have an app, and again we have an init.py. I've never used an init.py file, to be honest, so I don't know how to use this thing. But yeah, we wrote the whole app, and now we actually have a README in the right place. And aha! Set the Flask app environment variable to app using export Flask app is app. And then do Flask run. I can do that. Let's cd into app. Sorry, code/app. Or just code. Not sure where I should run it. And we actually don't have a requirements.txt, so we can't run pip install r requirements. But I guess we can do export Flask app is app. And then Flask run. I have never used this. It works. Let's open it. Hello world. Hello world. Hello world. Init. Routes. Hello world. Hello world. Damn GPT. I'm going to change to GPT-4. And let's do it again cd and npm run and delete. So now we're going to create it with GPT-4, which will cost a little bit more money. I mean, I guess I could have used the preview 1106, but whatever. Okay, and it is done. So let's take a look at what we have in here. We have a readme.md, and we have an installation instruction, and we have this command, and we actually have requirements here. And we even have a version for Flask. And we have run.py, which now imports from app, create app. And in app, we have an init.py. And here we have create app. And we have some jokes here, and then we have a route to get the joke. I guess in templates, we just have the joke here and then window location reload. Let's see if this one works. cd app or cd code, and we have to do python 3 run.py. And it is running. Let's open it. And look at this, random joke generator. Why do we tell actors break a leg? Because every play has a cast. Another joke. It doesn't work. Another joke. Okay, there's just too few jokes. Did you hear about the claustrophobic astronaut? He just needed a little space. Next one. Yesterday I saw a guy spilled all his Scrabble letters on the road. I asked him, what's the word on the street? Okay, so actually it now works. Did you hear about the actor who fell through the floorboards? He was just going through a stage. Great, so now it actually works without function calling. Now this of course has way less features than my actual GPT-AutoPilot, but at least it's a start. So in future videos I'm going to develop this further, and we're going to test it out with different kind of open source models, and perhaps I will try to fine-tune it as well. So if you want to see those videos, then make sure to subscribe to my channel and give this video a like if you liked it. And let me know in the comments what language should I use next. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.